In-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth
Studio.
98.1.
Mics are up. A very good morning to you, and thanks for sticking with us here at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. You're listening to Smooth Breakfast with me, Valentine. It's time for us to talk about the news and go into details, really analyzing the newspaper stories this morning as presented to us. We have 9 stories to go through. We have 3 analysts to do justice to these stories. We have a new member of the house. His name is Gbolahan Adenuga. Good morning, Gbolahan.
Good morning, Valentine.
Thank you for joining us this morning. You can find Gbolahan on Twitter as Mr. G Quest, as he's joining us this morning. And also, not forgetting Devoe Okorie. Good morning, Devoe.
Good morning, Valentine. Lagos.
Eku what?
Eku wholesale elections.
Cheta, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Cheta is up on Twitter at Chexta. That's CHXTA. We'll start very quickly, but before that, Lagos, be mindful of the fact that we're streaming live on YouTube, so you can go to youtube.com/smooth901FM Lagos and watch us live. You can also leave a comment there. Our WhatsApp number for contributions is 0809 444 0981. Also on Twitter, the hashtag is freshlypressed981, and you should be following at smooth981FM. First story is from Guardian newspaper. The headline reads Controversy over alleged missing soldiers. In this story, Devoe, the Nigerian army has denied and any of its personnel were missing in the attack by Boko Haram, the attack that happened on Saturday. Reports that that we got from the news agency of Nigeria that actually filtered to other tabloids or newspapers read that 23 Nigerian soldiers were yet to be accounted for after the ambush by the insurgents. What's your take on this story?
Actually, 18 soldiers and then 5 officers.
Conflicting reports.
Yes. Now,
but the army is saying none. None was taken away.
The army is denying this, and who are they denying? That's the Nigerian news agency of Nigeria, NAN. So we expect NAN to also be credible, and they say they got their information from a very competent military source. Now, there was an attack in Bama local government. Whilst the soldiers went to displace insurgents that they believed had come out from the last attack that took place from the Sambisa fringes. As you remember, they did announce that they had recovered Sambisa. Now, in the NAN reports, what was said was that 11 trucks were released to do this exercise. And at the end of the day, only 3 came back to base. So where are the outstanding 8? And what they mentioned was that when they got there along the highway, over hundreds of insurgents attacked them. Okay, so you can compare 11 trucks of how many soldiers with over 100 insurgents attacking them. Who would win? Now, with only 3 trucks coming back, that means 8 were displaced one way or the other. Now, in this same report, it went across also to the AFP, to the BBC. The Degree Director, that's the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier Texas Chukwu, in his denial mentioned that he wants to put the record straight. Now, what he said is that members of the public should be assured of safety. They should disregard the reports, and that yes, there was an attempt on them, but it failed as the insurgents tried to cut away vehicles and troops, that they were quelled, and that people should be careful of how information is disseminated these days. That those officers were wounded, yes, and that they're being treated properly. Now, the problem here is the BBC also reinforced this based on their own sources and said that they stand by their reports, and that beyond those who were missing, even the military base was overrun. Now, that why would they claim that it's safe if at the end of the day there are still some areas within the northeast that the media
here's what I noticed, that perhaps the military is being very careful with, which is inflaming an already inflamed situation, and making sure that information gathering, because as far as I'm concerned, or we know, information is a very important tool in the scheme of things, especially when it comes to national security. The way you spread this information either makes or mars the efforts of the military in curtailing this violence
Right.
as it's being spread. And international community really, I wouldn't say they couldn't care less. They would care, right? But they might not be as sentimental as we are in receiving such information. So the military, in saying this, are they trying to hide the information or just trying to manage the
It's a
situation as
bad
we have it?
habit that they have.
It's
I
not
mean,
just a
remember
bad
Cheta
habit.
Nwaeze?
Cheta, let me say something.
Okay.
Information management is key.
Yeah.
But what you're trying to deal with is the truth.
Mm.
At the end of the day, why douse the reality of the situation? Now, look at the other pointers the BBC took up. They mentioned that you say it's safe, yet the insurgency has gone on for 9 years. Two, they've had numbers of complaints where people they've been poorly fed,
Yeah.
they've been ill-equipped in terms of fighting the war. Yet you prefer them to report the accolades and you discourage them reporting the reality of where you're having it difficult. When the real situation is out there, maybe people can aid and assist as it should be done. But if you continue managing it against the reality of what you're truly facing, and at the end of the day, you can see we're in our 9th year, we still haven't resolved it.
Thank you very much, Devoe. I'll move on to the next story here. There's worrisome news, but we'll see how that can be corrected. We'll follow that story closely. Let's talk about the controversy over the alleged missing soldiers. Now, moving on to Punch newspaper. This next one says the headline reads, Ortom, that's the Benue State Governor, Samuel Ortom, he announced yesterday that he was going to dump the All Progressives Congress. He calls himself the child of God. In a message that he shared that seemed like it seemed like a sermon more than an address. He's saying that he's actually open to any political party that's willing to get him into their camps. Cheta, what's your take?
Child of God, when the question. See, whatever Governor Ortom's motivation for defecting from the APC is, and his motivations, I can say with almost absolute certainty, are not because of the people. It is not lawful for a governor in a state in Nigeria to be partyless. So he should have, before doing this defection thing, he should have actually looked for where to parachute into, even if it's COA. Having said that, a lot of people think that it's the what they call it is the whole pastoral conflict headsman issue that is making him defect. The truth is, Ortom, by his actions over the last 3 years, couldn't care less about what's happening. There was a peace meeting on Sunday that was organized between him and George Akume, who is his political godfather in the States. The peace meeting was organized by an Ekiti power broker, Akande Audu, who is the husband of the chairman of Makurdi local government area. Now, Akume has been seething at Ortom for quite a bit and has threatened that in the Benue State APC primaries that he's going to back another person, Emmanuel Jimmy, against Ortom. And the peace meeting unfortunately devolved into serious name calling. Ortom told Akume of Akume's wife apparently is in Germany right now, paid for by Ortom and all of that. It was a big fracas. And then Ortom defecting the very next day. I mean, that is what it's all about.
So it was from that meeting.
Yes, not all this his speech where he just blah 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 blah.
The red card.
Nonsense.
But what party do you reckon he might want to move to?
PDP probably may accept him, but likely will not, because he's they don't like him.
He left them.
They don't like him. You have then there's this situation where he's in trouble with the people because of a double whammy of the herdsman thing, and then the fact that he has, by omission or commission, withheld salaries for quite a while. A lot of people people in Benue State have actually been suffering quite a bit. So Ortom is probably one of the worst governors in the country. He belongs to the second tier because Yahaya Bello is in a class of himself. But he belongs to the second tier, which includes Ortom, Yari in Zamfara. There are so many bad governors. So coming to doing all this, it is not because of the people or anything. It is simply because he has quarreled with his godfather.
So the president of the APC chairman has said, Oshomole, he had described Ortom as a very senior member of the APC that told him, that's Oshomole, on a number of occasions that he would not leave the APC unless he was pushed out. So it's possible that that was what happened this time.
Akume pushed him out. Akume told him point blank that I'm going to back Emmanuel Chime against you. And Akume is the one who has the structures.
Okay.
Ortom doesn't.
All right. Thank you very much, Cheta. ThisDay newspaper has this next story. Police place 5 million naira bounty for information on killing of 11 soldiers. Yesterday, we had this very sad news of the occurrence of the incident that happened in Edo State with policemen who were burnt in the vehicles. They were ambushed. And according to the Nigerian police force, they said they placed a 5 million naira bounty for information that could lead to the arrest of the killers of this 11 police officers within 2 weeks. Devoe, your thoughts?
Well, this is a quick response by the force head office regarding the killing of their own men. 7 in Abuja, that was at the Galadimawa roundabout.
Yes,
they were ambushed by some unknown gunmen. And then 4 in Sabon Gida Ora in Edo State, where another ambush took place. Connection has not been made, but they've put out a notice. IG has also put on notice all commissioners nationwide on a red alert to keep or direct a 24-hour crime prevention visibility patrol. Now, in other words, our checkpoints are back. Now, they've also put a bounty, which is the 5 million naira bounty for information, such credible information that could lead to the finding of the killers of this force. And they've said they'll protect the information or the identity of whoever releases. They've also released some numbers. So if you do check the ThisDay, you will see the hotline numbers that you could reach police on. Now, the last statement I'd like to comment on was where they mentioned that they offered condolence to the families of the dead policemen. I think it should go way beyond this.
That, yeah.
There are reparations that are put in place for officers that die on duty. And this is something that is hardly spoken about, because what happens after putting yourselves up to risk, putting yourself on the line to protect Nigerians? Already we know we have a dearth in the manpower in the police. We don't even have enough. The count is about 1 policeman to about 400,000 Nigerians.
400.
So to lose these few is a steep price. So I hope and I want to advocate that their families are properly taken care of, so that at the end of the day, even in their recruitment or looking to replace them and increase their numbers, many people can realize that their service to the nation would not be in vain.
Thank you very much, Devoe, for that wonderful analysis. Punch newspaper has this next story. I do not believe foreigners are involved in Nigeria's killings. That's what the French ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Denis Goya, had identified. He said this and identified impunity and injustice as the factors that are driving the killings and bloodshed in Plateau, Benue, Kaduna, and other parts of the country. He said this in an address that he was given to journalists in commemoration of the 2018 French National Day in Abuja, and he made the statement on Saturday precisely. Cheta, your thoughts?
Yeah, Monsieur Furore is right. See, impunity, injustice. I'm going to quote him directly. The reasons for the killings is demography. Some people are fighting for land, so there must be direct policy to develop agriculture and animal husbandry. I think impunity is encouraging the killings, and those responsible must be punished. I don't believe foreigners are involved in killings. The second is justice. Where there's that kind of killing, there must be proper prosecution and perpetrators must be properly sentenced. If that does not happen, then it cannot end. I mean, Monsieur Goyer has said everything that we've been saying on this show and more. We have dwindling resources, a growing population, more population, which means more population pressure, and then that sense of injustice. I mean, after General Danjuma said, hey, defend yourselves, we've seen evidence that the Bata ethnic group in Adamawa State have formed a militia. The Terag ethnic group in Gombe State have a militia. The Jarawa in Bauchi have a militia. The Tarok, the Egon, the Junkun, they've had militias for years. Now it appears that the Mambila ethnic group are actively in Taraba, are actively attacking Fulani communities. I mean, when people lose faith in the ability of the state to protect them, they take matters into their hands. It's logical. It's not. So we are now seeing what is happening. A new sect, the Hakika, has emerged in Adamawa State, which is preaching a slightly worse ideology of Islamism as than Boko Haram. And we're not doing anything. Instead, we're sitting down and wringing our hands and saying, "Oh, it's Libyan mercenaries." The sooner we face the truth about what is happening, then the sooner we'll be able to solve it. All this hand wringing and looking for who to blame will not sort anything out.
Thank you, Cheta. I'll go to the messages now. WhatsApp, you want to give a word?
Yeah, I just wanted to say very briefly as
Yes.
well to that. I really believe, of course, the French ambassador must know what he's talking about. There's no way he would be meddling into Nigeria's affairs without talking, without intelligence. So there must be some sort of intelligence to back what he's saying.
Okay, thank you very much, Gbolahan. MI from Akoka sent this one on WhatsApp. Says the devil wears Prada, but the devil also is always in the details. I do not know which version of the story is accurate, but the death of 7 soldiers should not be trivialized or politicized. We need to know what happened to the missing soldiers. I sincerely hope we stop using the word technically and insurgents in the same sentence. A coup technically defeated. MI from Akoka. This one is from Ace in Agor. It says, I'm not sure who's lying now. There was a broadcast on one of the national TV channels which said that bodies of some of the soldiers were recovered. I think the military is just trying to manage the information. It's just like the police PRO telling us that there was no police protest in Maiduguri. Ogbomachidoze says, good morning, guys. I thought Boko Haram was technically defeated. Thinking about it, where's Lai Mohammed? I haven't heard from him sometime. Well, you will in a few pages. Cheta, are you sure the PDP won't jump at him to spite the APC? I was talking about Benue State Governor. Remember Uncle Wicks visited him, or Wike rather, visited him during the herdsmen issues and he donated 200 million naira to the states. Well, Benga says, Ortom is one of the worst performing governors in Nigeria today. The Fulani herdsmen attacks distracted everyone from his poor performance as a governor. Wow. Andose from Festac says, good morning. These soldiers and officers who were attacked are all from the 81 Division of the Nigerian Army, Kufabami in Lagos. If the army admits the loss, it will dampen the morale of the colleagues here in Lagos who will be going to reinforce the contingent in Yobe.
Loss, it will be worse for morale. Again, remember Chinda Hedima.
Jacob from Aja says, good morning, guys. Please, before Ortom, my governor moved a step. Let EFCC screen first. And where did he think he's going? Okay, all right. Naivi Bamidele said, but Cheta's backstory on Ortom's defection is a bit strange. Details of purported Sunday meeting has been on social media for more than 3 weeks and could not have occurred on Sunday, Cheta.
Well, my source says it happened on Sunday.
And it's verified.
My source is somebody who knows what he's talking about.
Okay. All right, somebody's giving you a compliment here. Says you're a very good analyst. I'll move on to this one. Cheta, I'll come to you. That one. So you give us analysis on this story from Guardian newspaper. Furore as federal government aborts Southern leaders' trip from pre-restructuring rally. So for about 5 hours yesterday, said leaders of the 3 major social cultural groups in the southern part of the country, as the South-South Forum, Ohanese Ndigbo, Afenifere, they were all stranded in Abuja as the aircraft were allegedly denied landing permits at Makurdi, Benue State, where they were to attend a pro-restructuring rally. Just your thoughts on this?
Funny enough, this went around as a WhatsApp broadcast, jumped into Twitter and all of that, and there was a lot of shout about how dictatorial this government is. And I understand that a lot of people are paranoid because this government has displayed, frankly, very dictatorial tendencies.
In your opinion?
It's facts.
In your opinion?
Disobeying court orders for a start. Dasuki, Zaki, I can do a list till tomorrow morning. It is the fact they've displayed tendencies. I didn't say that they've displayed dictator. I said they've displayed tendencies. So anyway, point is, this particular time is not exactly what happened. Yesterday, the reason for the cancellation of such flights was more benign, bad weather. We had a situation yesterday where most airports in Nigeria, there was an NCA notice to that effect. Most airports in Nigeria were actually, a lot of flights were grounded and refused landing because of poor visibility. And there was an NCAA notice. Flights were meant to land in Benin, Kaduna, Kano, Enugu, were all denied landing because visibility was not up to what was it 1 kilometer. So the closest airport to Makurdi is not even an airport; it's an airfield. The closest airport to the Makurdi airfield is Enugu, which is 256 kilometers away. So it is very reasonable to assume that the weather conditions in Enugu were quite similar to that to those in Makurdi. So this time around, it's quite a different reason. But again, I understand people's paranoia.
Yeah. So anything that happens if you're kept at the airport, for instance, in their stead, it's okay. It's understandable why they'll think this way, because for 5 hours they'll be left with their thoughts and speculations.
Well, the thing is, I mean, flight delays in Nigeria are not a very common thing. And then you'll be sitting in, I mean, last week, on 3 different occasions, I had delayed flights, and we'll just be sitting in the airport. They will just say due to operational reasons, or they will just say due to
there's no concrete explanation.
No concrete explanation. So again, it comes down to information management from our people. We don't know how to manage information.
Well, Chidozie here sending a message on WhatsApp. It says poor visibility at most Nigerian airports had led to air return for most of the country's airlines. The poor weather, it was gathered, had been on since last week, as most of the airlines either cancelled or delayed their flights. The poor weather is becoming an issue in Nigeria once again, despite the announcements by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority in December of 2017 that it had improved facilities at most airports from the initial minimal weather conditions to more acceptable standards. Lagos and Abuja airports were among the aerodromes whose minimal weather conditions were improved at the time by the regulatory body. Thank you, Chidozie. It just gives light to that last story. So Guardian newspaper is next. It has this headline: Observer groups reject Ekiti election results. Devoe, in this story, said a coalition of observer groups and civil society organizations who witnessed Saturday's Ekiti state governorship elections said that the exercise did not reflect their findings, and they promised to give full disclosure tomorrow. What should we be expecting, and what's the grouse really?
What I call the grounds or the observations, we do want them to release these details so that the public can actually...
What other details besides what we already saw?
Well, the truth is the elections are over and there are lessons to be learned. It's not as clean of a bill as has spoken. So until we hear from them, we will not know. But the PDP is also rejecting the result, obviously, and they're saying that the winner, that's Fayemi, had a stolen mandate, and that they'll use every constitutional means to reclaim the victory. Now, one, they're saying that APC thugs attacked us, the security men have baited the attack of some of their men in some of the locations. Secondly, they're saying there's a discrepancy in the vote count, that the number of accredited voters, that's the count that Fayemi had was more than the accredited voters. So where did they get the additional votes from? Well, no matter the issues, no matter the grounds and the differences, they will have to table all of this with evidence at the election panels that will take place in a short while once they head to court.
But the margin was barely 9,000.
Barely 9,000. They still say that they won and that vote was wrong. Now, this is also coming on the allegation that the Akwa Ibom State APC accused their governor, Udom Manuel, who is from who's a PDP man, of sponsoring the Ekiti elections with about 5 billion.
All the way from Akwa Ibom.
All the way from Akwa Ibom. And the PDP is claiming that the APC is still seizing from the loss of their seats in the last election that took place. But the truth is this: the issue of voter buying and money politics, monetization of our politics, has become the main problem till date. It just so happens that instead of resolving electoral integrity, we've looked for another means of trying to manipulate the results. And in a case whereby the politicians simply just take account of the accredited voters and then times it by the amount that they intend to embellish them with, then at the end of the day, our politics has lost its integrity and its credibility completely. Take a look at the number of voters. I think they had about 900,000 registered voters, of which about 450
about half
were
turned
registered.
Up. Yeah.
And I think about 400,000 turned up for the election. So you times 400,000 times 5,000 now, it comes to about roughly about 2 billion plus. So what you're saying is that if I have 2 billion, I can carry the whole state. We can't continue in this manner.
Here's a question though. And this is not related to this story in any way, but just a question to ponder on. How much was that amount that the government said they were going to give to the poor?
Well, to the poor.
$322 million.
Okay. All right. Moving on to this next story, Premium Times newspaper has this one. NJC settles 80% of federal judiciary pension arrears. The National Judicial Council, NJC, said it has paid 80% of the pension arrears owed to retirees of federal judiciary between 2013 till date. This was disclosed yesterday, shortly after inspecting enrollment for retirees of the federal judiciary from Kano, Katsina, Jigawa, and Kaduna states. And we know that the judiciary has actually been taking steps, proactive steps to clean up the system and make sure that everything works well. They actually set precedents for other institutions of government to follow suit. Cheta, what's your take on this story?
I don't know why this is news. Looking at Luka Modric is more entertaining.
Why?
No,
Some
on a
positive
more
news is
serious-
actually good.
No, on a more serious note,
Mm.
we should celebrate that you've been owing people their pensions forever,
Mm.
and then you come to start beating your chest that you paid the pensions.
Little strides.
No,
Positive
I
strides.
refuse to celebrate that. You shouldn't be owing people who have worked their
Agreed.
behinds off forever
Agreed.
and then retired and in their old age. What I mean, these are the things that drive corruption in civil service. When people look at people being owed. Being old after they retire in their old age when they cannot walk they cannot walk again, and then you are coming to beat your chest. Pay the thing and then move on.
Thank you, Cheta. Okonkwo Samuel sent a message on Twitter at Smooth91FM. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. And if you're trying to send a message on WhatsApp, the number is 0809 440 981. He said, that's Samuel. We know the truth. Even the present APC government and their supporters know it. The international community know it. The presidency is just wasting time. Thinking we can be deceived with such comments as Gaddafi's men killing Nigerians. The French envoy knows. Thank you very much, Samuel. Messages on WhatsApp here. Chidozie, okay, thank you very much, Chidozie. I've read that earlier. Another one here from Big T says, security, until killers are jailed, police properly paid, justice done, and seen to be done, people would arm themselves and defend their local habitats. Now, herdsmen should get land. Well, okay, should get land like the rest of us by buying it. Reduce poverty, arrest their sponsors, tackle hate speech, and Boko Haram will fizzle out. Big T, thank you for your contribution. Big E from K2 says, Ortom is regarded as one of the worst governors in Nigeria. The first is Yaya Bello. You guys just know that 2019 is near, so we expect more politics form in this bad weather government, and I see them using and diverting funds for their campaigns. Okay, you did not put your name. Please put your name to your messages so we can go through them. The next story is from Punch newspaper. Executive order number 6, irreversible. That's what Lai Mohammed is saying, that the federal government will not be intimidated by criticisms from those opposed to the executive order number 6 that was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari that gives powers to the government to actually temporarily seize.
Yeah, temporary seizure. I think many people are against this simply because they feel that it's unconstitutional and dictatorial. But if you realize what is at stake, the government is saying here that the amount of money in question over these corrupt cases, about 155 of them, amounts to 595 billion. That's at stake. Secondly, many of them have been behind the scene trying to sell off some of these assets quickly to enjoy the proceeds. So what they're saying is that once you are encumbered or once your case is in court, those properties will be temporarily forfeited to ensure that you don't get a hold of them.
Thank you very much. Final story. Come to you, Gbolahan, for this one. Premium Times newspaper has it. Buhari orders repatriation of Nigerians stranded in Russia. So the president has directed the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, and Minister of State for Aviation, Hadi Sirika, to commence the process of repatriating Nigerians who traveled to Russia for the FIFA 2018 World Cup. Your thoughts?
Yes, well, I think our president actually loves giving directives and executive orders. You know, we get this every now and then. So, but to sum it up anyway, I would say it's a good thing that he's done that. That is actually looking after the welfare of the citizens of the nation, which is what the president should do. But what I would actually expect is that there should be thorough investigation into the reasons why we've had this occurring. Because I don't understand why you would actually have people traveling over to Russia to watch a football game and then a travel agent cancel their return tickets. It's very unheard of that you'd have situations of that nature occur.
But some of them reported cases of fraud. that they had, some of them said they got they had people that fell prey to people who actually collected over 2,000 euros from them or 2,000 pounds from them for the fan cards, thinking that would give them extended stay in Russia.
Well, that says a lot then, which means that they were actually expecting to not return back to Nigeria was the plan. So, this actually sounds similar to the situation of people crossing the Sahara.
But Cheta is back. Why did you come back, Cheta?
Because I can afford to have a life here. On my flight out, there were 4 guys who clearly stated that they had no intention of coming back. For them, it was a one-way ticket. See, we should, the middle class, a lot of us, people that we know, people that you know, that have also left. The difference between the middle class and the lower classes is that the middle class can do legal migration. These guys don't have any choice. So, I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But the good thing is you're back. Well, thank you very much for that analysis. It's so glad to have you join our team of analysts. Check out our analysts on social media at Cheta is at Chexta, at CHXTA, at Devoe Okorie is at Devoe Okorie on Twitter, same name, so it's very easy. At Gbolahan, our new entrance is at Mr. G Quest. Pretty simple, right? Coming up next, we talk entertainment inside of the world of Grapevine. It's Grapevine 91 next in 14 minutes. Good morning.
Headlines.